In an unmarked building in a dense suburb of Bamako, the capital of Mali, a team of men and women sift through documents that may be 4 centuries old. They are making a digital backup of the Islamic manuscripts from Timbuktu. Most of them cannot read the text they are working so diligently to preserve. These manuscripts were rescued from Timbuktu in a daring evacuation, while Mali nearly collapsed in conflict. In 2012, rebels returning from Libya occupied the country's north. Soldiers in the south toppled the government in a coup, but the worst would come when Timbuktu became the first city in the world to be governed by an al-Qaeda affiliate. In the vast, unprotected north, ideologues destroyed ancient mausoleums, imposed harsh rule, and forced thousands to flee. The city's most irreplaceable treasures were thousands of bundles of handwritten pages stored in libraries and family collections. This was the written record of Islamic North Africa, passed down through generations. The jihadists would eventually come for it too. Abdul Qadir Haidara had been one of Timbuktu's most active librarians and manuscript collectors before the crisis. When the occupiers came, he knew that no texts could stay in the city, and hatched a plan with his peers. Under the cover of night, with hundreds of volunteers and almost $1 million in donations, Haidara and others evacuated all of the books by road and by river. They moved 2,500 cases and didn't lose one. 3 years later, a collection that had never left the dry private libraries of Timbuktu is in Bamako, in secret safe houses like this one.
Pendant les crises, on a vu que tous les cultures est menacées. On s'est organisé pour voir comment il faut sauver ce qui peut être sauvé. Et c'est comme ça qu'on a cette mission d'évacuation des manuscrits vers d'autres régions du Mali.
The evacuated manuscripts span half a millennium. They were copied or written when scholarship thrived in northern Mali after the late 16th century, a time when private libraries became the trophies of great men.
Et voilà comment ça a commencé et ça se développe petit à petit jusqu'à ce que ça devienne vraiment une véritable industrie des livres à Tombouctou. Parce qu'il y avait des ateliers de copistes, poètes qui ont fait beaucoup de poésie. Il y avait des magistrats qui ont fait beaucoup des actes juridiques. Une grande richesse culturelle et de connaissances.
Their contents and the notes written in their margins are living links to Islamic learning and daily life centuries ago.
L'islam qu'on connaît dans ces manuscrits, c'est l'islam de tolérance.
Abdul Qadir Haidara says 95% of the city's texts were saved. But their new home presented an opportunity to attempt something even bigger. Haidara wanted to have the manuscripts backed up, most for the first time, and he needed help. The call was answered by a brotherhood of Benedictine monks who live in an astonishingly modern abbey 9,000 kilometers away. Here at St. John's in northern Minnesota, Father Columbus Stewart oversees a global operation to back up the world's religious texts. Since 1965, the monks here have quietly gathered one of the world's largest collections of rare and endangered religious manuscripts. Until the turn of the century, they used microfilm. But digital tools have allowed them to expand drastically. Today, the Hill Museum and Manuscript Library scans and stores copies of text from the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. But their work began small, in Europe, in an open-minded Austrian monastery.
So these cabinets, these great cabinets that you're looking at here, contain 93,000 rolls of microfilm. So you've got shelves full, or drawers full of little yellow microfilm boxes. Thousands and thousands and thousands of them in the numerical order in which they were created.
The project began when Europe was caught between two existential threats, a world war and a cold one. A nearly retired German-speaking monk from St. John's named Oliver Kapsner embarked on a mission to create microfilm backups of his brotherhood's manuscript culture. It was something that had only been tried once at the Vatican.
So there he is in his Benedictine habit, holding the quill as if he were writing a manuscript.
Father Oliver walked and took buses from Italy to Austria, asking if war-scarred Benedictine monasteries would let him photograph their libraries. Many were skeptical.
But Oliver was persistent and persuasive, and he managed to persuade them that this new technology of microfilm was a wise form of insurance in case there were another war. Finally, there was this one abbot who understood why it was important. And once somebody goes first, we still find that today, the others fall into line.
A quarter century after his death, the project is larger than he ever might have imagined.
So it's basically the manuscript culture of Europe in here.
But it is work that follows a long tradition, beginning with their patron saint, Benedict of Nursia, who lived in Italy in the 6th century.
During what we call the Dark Ages, which weren't quite as dark as we think they were, but during that sort of early medieval period, and then through the Middle Ages, of course, monasteries were centers of learning. And until other religious orders started in the 12th century, it was really just Benedictines around. So we were not only concerned about reading books ourselves, but we were concerned about making sure that whatever we came across could be preserved in a copy. So this is Kremsmünster, number 1. Let's go upstairs. There it is, number 1, 1965. 13th to 15th century, series of sermons, it looks like. That's the fun part.
During his tenure, Father Columba has looked beyond Benedictine and even Christian collections, launching projects in Palestine, Lebanon, and elsewhere. In Syria and Iraq, their work was nearly complete when ISIS invaded. Father Columba and his library were the first to offer their help to the digital effort in Bamako. They would follow the same formula they had been refining for 50 years. Their cameras now take 3,600 images every day. Abdulkader Haidara says there are over 370,000 manuscripts in safe houses, each waiting to be digitized for the first time. Most are about faith, but some tackle science, law, or the remedies of the day.
J'ai vu un manuscrit qui parle, par exemple, des droits de l'homme, qui est écrit par un Africain, qui n'a été jamais publié, qui n'a été jamais traduit. Et ce savant, il décrit l'homme quand il est la ventre de sa maman. Et il parle de son droit et droit de sa maman. Quand il sera un homme complet, il parle de son droit et droit de sa maman, et ça devient droit de l'homme.
It will take years to capture every page. Back in Minnesota, the files arrive by the terabyte. They are organized in servers and backed up on digital tape in faraway underground vaults.
Isn't it beautiful, though? Look at that. The edges, the layers. It's almost as if you've got several pages sort of superimposed, but it's really just one.
2 of Timbuktu's 25 major libraries are now backed up, yet hundreds of thousands of documents remain.
Benedictines are fundamentally optimistic about the human project. And so when people look at our Marcel Breuer Modernist Church, or they think about us doing this digital stuff with Muslim communities, they say, well, why do you do this? And I say, well, this time in which we live is the time God has given us. It's the only one we have. And part of the reality of now is Christians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, trying to figure out how we're going to work together on this fragile planet. But also with this awareness, because of our own European roots and international aspects, having monasteries around the world, and with technology, that we're part of something much bigger. And we take that pretty seriously.